party president will speak, flanked with other leaders who are here. He will tell you the themes in his address, and then we will allow questions after. So when you get ready, just let me know, and then I'll invite him to begin.
Good afternoon, fellow Ugandans, comrades in the struggle, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. As the new year 2025 unfolds, we wish to address the country on the state of affairs of the country, specifically the state of the liberation struggle in our motherland. It would rather be an ingratitude not to thank the Almighty God, whose divine providence has guided and seen us through through a number of tumultuous episodes throughout the year. Sustaining a protracted struggle takes great sacrifice, commitment, resilience, and patriotism, especially under the prevailing political terrain, where the junta is brazenly unleashing terror on the helpless and debilitated citizenry. It's on that premise that I extend my profound gratitude to you colleagues who are assembled here and those away, and all other Ugandans of goodwill for that demonstrated tenacity, grit, and unwavering commitment to the struggle. As I speak today, our founding president and patriarch, as well as the undisputed icon of the liberation struggle, that is Colonel Dr. Besigye, and our comrade Haj Obed Rutale Kamregea, are languishing in Luzira maximum prison over ill-driven and obviously trumped-up charges. I also speak with a heavy heart, noting that many other opposition activists who are opposed to the family rule are incarcerated in safe houses and other gazetted and ungazetted detention facilities as prisoners of conscience, and many have disappeared without a trace. We do commiserate with their loved ones who are enduring multitudes of vagaries associated with the absence of their loved ones. It's in the same vein that I would like to pay homage to our Kisumu 36, who are still nursing multifaceted social, economic, physical, and psychological injuries that they sustained during the ordeal of abduction, incarceration, and the dehumanization that you all witnessed in the course of the year. On the flip side, we should derive gratification from the fact that the aforesaid atrocities, cruel, inhuman, and all forms of transgressions and degrading treatment are a manifestation of a crumbling regime and should be perceived and treated as birth pangs for a new Uganda that works for all. Let us all observe a moment of silence in commemoration of our colleagues and other national leaders who have departed from us in the course of the year. That is the Honorable Cecilia Atim Ogwal, former Member of Parliament, Dokoro, Comrade Sarah Eperu. Of course, we had also previously lost Adam Mulwana, you know him of Toka Kwa Barabara, Honorable Dr. Frank Nabwiso, former MP Kagoma, Mzee Benjamin Olwa, former LC5 Apache District, Dr. Ruhemurana, former Mayor Kabale, and a couple of other leaders, so many. The list is endless. Mobilizers, supporters, and many, many other Ugandans who have lost their loved ones. We extend apathies and tribute to the victims of the Chitezi West Slide, the tragedy which is of unprecedented magnitude, as well as the Bugisu landslides that occasioned catastrophe to the people in that region and Ugandans at large. To this, we add various deaths caused through the continuing menace of murders and victims of the sick health care systems, including incessant accidents on our deplorable and rotten infrastructure, eternal to their souls. Our country's social, political, economic, and security crises have been exacerbated by nefarious conduct of the people in power, greed, the hunger zone, and apologists to the regime for over 40 years, and of course the entrenched oligarchy of the Museveni family that has firmly established itself as a presidential monarchy and perpetuating family rule supported by those fortune hunters who are well known to you. Few among them have been intimidated and cowed into a deafening silence, which is regrettable, and remain willy-nilly and conscious accomplices in the destruction of our country. The unfettered access to state resources that the dictator enjoys, his family's grip and patronage over state institutions and private enterprise, the created cronies and rented support, and the use of the armed forces to mediate in the governance issues all evince one thing: a country which is not at peace with itself and is on the cliff, on the precipice, which is regrettable. All these are written on the wall for the keen observers to see. Abuse of the law and power, recklessness of the security officers, plunder of national resources and fraudulent conduct, and management of state affairs with reckless abandon has occasioned untold suffering to many Ugandans for over 4 decades. To regain our power, we must come to the realization that we have to execute a liberation struggle to its fruition. The Uganda shilling 60 billion record-breaking hit in Bank of Uganda in a twinkle of one eye also evinces the rot within the system that is fast driving the nation to the brink of collapse. The hallmark of the entrenchment of the family rule is best manifested in the callous act of Mr. Museveni appointing his son, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, as CDF, and whose reprehensible disposition, antics, and statements speak to the brokenness of the state structure. Those 2 incidents define what the situation is, the situation we are grappling with. That bloody plunder in Bank of Uganda, which happened in the split of a second. 60 billion siphoned off Bank of Uganda. It's an epitome of the tragedy we are confronted with as a country. And the appointment of Museveni's son as the CDF, the commander of defense forces, it epitomizes the callousness of Mr. Museveni in abusing power and entrenching family rule. Those are two incidents. They're enough to define the tragedy that befell this country. The aforesaid deplorable state of affairs, coupled with the tainted human rights record, which has invited international sanctions against a number of state actors, has regrettably dented Uganda's image internationally to the extent of being clustered among us pariah states. You can imagine. Uganda is now a laughing stock. Those who are following the antics of Moho's, the CDF, will no doubt have to think twice about either investing in Uganda or visiting Uganda or in any way having connection or association with our motherland. Not only within the region, but internationally, to the extent that even it threatened to invade the US Embassy and evict the ambassador, to invade Sudan, to invade Kenya, and so on and so forth. The rantings, which are not on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, but they are day in, day out, 24/7, coming from a person who is in charge of, who is actually at the epitome, the apex of our security apparatus, is one matter which should worry all of us. Indeed, we are a pariah state in the eyes of the international community. The year 2024 has ended on rather a perilous note, with Mr. Museveni totally subverting the constitutional order, particularly regarding civil liberties and dispensation of justice. The escalating spate of abductions and the use of kangaroo military tribunal as a tool of persecution of political opponents is such a worrying trend as we usher in a politically charged and volatile year 2025. The trend is worrying. The subversion of the constitutional order, the statements coming from General Kaguta Museveni. I have spoken to the Chief Justice about issues of bail. I have directed all police officers not to grant a bond, total oblivious of the dictates of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and all the international instruments we have assented to. He is the law, and the law is him. That is the situation obtaining in the country today, and those are the events ushering us into a politically charged year. We have to brace ourselves for the tough times ahead. Signs are on the wall that as a country, we are headed for turmoil. With this Museveni's choreographed plot to execute our patriarch, Dr. Besigye, following a summary and perfunctory trial before the General Court Martial, and the willy-nilly approach of the judiciary in the Museveni's villainous scheme has further compounded the whole grotesque situation with their recent unorthodox Supreme Court pronouncement of a dual criminal justice system where appeals from convictions by the General Court Martial shall not be entertained by the courts of judicature. The situation. And I want to speak with authority. The mission of General Kaguta Museveni in all this melodrama, in all those shenanigans going on before the General Court Martial, is to execute Dr. Besigye, nothing else. It's all about taking him through that perfunctory trial and then go to the firing squad. You'll all recall the words of General Idi Amin at his during his heydays, when he established the Economic Crimes Tribunal and also the General Court. He didn't call it actually court, his tribunal. He gave orders to those who were manning those outfits. He said, look here, when you get a spy, he said, when you get a spy, don't waste your time, just take them to the tribunal. And when they go to the tribunal, don't waste no time making laws. He said, making laws the whole day, talking this, talking what. Shush! Shortcut, firing squad. That is the path they are walking Dr. Besigye through. Just taking him to the general court martial as a matter of course. But the ultimate decision already made in the minds of Joel Kaguta Museveni and his cronies, execute him, finish him off, get him out of action. That is the mission. And we have evidence for this. We have spoken about it, and we shall keep highlighting details of the same. This correlates, as I said here, and it speaks to, there is a nexus between this choreographed plot and the pronouncement made by the Supreme Court. No doubt about that. That now we have this system you cannot define, a dual system. Actually, our justice system now is a dual way carriage. Is a dual carriage way. A dual carriage way with no point of connection, intersection. That once you are taken to the general court martial, never mind who takes the decision. Article 119 provides for the position of the Attorney General, and 120 also provides for the DPP. Those officers are so instrumental in our justice system. Actually, the DPP has to peruse through the files and sanction them and determine which matter to be taken to court or not. But in the case of these matters which go to the general tribunal, to the general court martial, nothing like the DPP perusing through. So it's on the discretion of General Kaguta Museveni to decide who goes where, who is tried before the general court martial and who is tried before the civilian courts on the same offenses. You all know this case involving the head of the Ndiga Kiran. I will cite only one example of the Ndiga Kiran in Uganda here. Ruomwa. Gentleman confessed that he killed the Ruomwa, but he is in the civilian courts here. He said he pulled the trigger, killed him, and is proud of it. But he is not in the general court martial. So those who are going to the general court martial, the Supreme Court said, please, your final appellate court is the general court martial appeal court. Nothing beyond that. Once you go through that process, you are convicted, you will not find your way to the mainstream courts of judicature for rescue. And that is a recipe for disaster. And that is the process they want to take Dr. Besigye through. That the lower general court martial convicts him, then he goes through the appellate court within the same system, and therefore is sent to the guillotine. Interest and concern to the state orchestrated shenanigans in the general court martial, where prisoners of conscience are coerced to plead guilty, accused persons denied their constitutionally guaranteed right to effective legal representation. Mr. Museveni's New Year proclamation that proscribed grant of police bond and bail, General Muhoozi's threats to clamp down on police officers who will grant space to critics of the family rule, etc. All these are quite ominous signs that we are in dangerous times. These are danger times, or rather dangerous times. And they are not by accident. Mr. Museveni, on the one hand, is saying no bond. He tactfully made reference to village thieves, but he didn't mean village thieves. He meant you, political actors, opponents to the family rule. That's what he meant. He was just using a figure of speech to pass on a message. He meant you, the political actors, no bail. You understand, many of these people here are on bail. Some on accusations of being a nuisance, others treason or terrorism, and many are lined up. So he said he has talked to the Chief Justice, no more bail. General Muhoozi said this time around he's not going to tolerate any police officer who massages. Maybe it treats the critiques of the family rule with the kid gloves. Those are all some ominous signs as we usher in the new politically charged year. Of great concern to us is that in the midst of this anarchical situation, a score of political actors have already been sucked into 2026 election euphoria, rivalry, and schism. This is baffling us. In the midst of this anarchy, this tragedy, we are gearing up. Men are in locker rooms. You know, in soccer we call them locker rooms, fitting themselves into jerseys. Should I play number 9, number 8? In a situation that portends anarchy, bloodshed, that is what is baffling us here at Katonga. That euphoria, and also the schism, the divisions, and so on and so forth. We hope it's not lost on Ugandans of goodwill that the prescription of appropriate panacea to the acute and chronic Mr. Museveni's hubris syndrome is a sine qua non or a condition precedent to a peaceful transfer of power. You need to underline that. We hope it's not lost on all of you Ugandans of goodwill. That what? That a prescription, proper prescription, the diagnosis is already made. The diagnosis is very clear. Mr. Museveni is wallowing under that yoke of hubris syndrome, that disorder which affects one to get obsessed with the power. And that is the problem we are dealing with. So the panacea, the remedy to that, the prescription, proper prescription for the already diagnosed problem is a condition precedent for peaceful transfer of power. That is a fact that we should all appreciate and guide our actions and about our trajectory. In a country devoid of unemboldened and aggressive citizenry, independent state institutions, e.g. the Electoral Commission, Judiciary, Human Rights Commission, Parliament and security agencies, robust civil society, and assertive religious leaders, the 2026 presidential election will be a farce. I need to repeat this. In a country devoid of independent and functional institutions, like an independent judiciary, independent electoral commission, parliament, and whatnot, a country devoid of unemboldened and aggressive citizenry, a country devoid of a robust civil society, devoid of an assertive religious leadership or clerics. 2026 election, particularly presidential election, is a farce. F-A-R-C-E, farce. Or fait accompli. We hope. No, it's our strong conviction that any meaningful conversation and efforts should be geared towards addressing these critical issues. That's where we are putting emphasis as the leadership at Katonga. Any meaningful conversation and efforts at redeeming this nation should be geared towards addressing those critical issues. In other words, the grand reset of our country is absolutely necessary to engender free competition for power and ensuring that the sovereignty of the people reigns supreme. Needless to mention that our ongoing transition agenda from the tainted FDC to PFF is largely informed by our espoused values and long-standing commitment to that cause. We need to to re-echo this message so that it sinks deep within the minds of those doubting Thomases and our detractors. Our cautious decision, painful as it is, or it was, to transition from the FDC that has been painstakingly been built over 20 years, because it's now 20 years, to morph into another outfit called the PAFF was basically informed by this long-standing commitment to this cause of a grand reset, to have a country that works for us, where the sovereignty of the people reigns supreme. Immense sacrifices, enthusiasm, and unwavering commitment of our countrywide membership towards this transition agenda is highly commendable. Allow me commend you members. It has not been an easy journey. Your unwavering commitment to this transition agenda, regardless of the intimidations, regardless of all sorts of allurements given to you or dangled before you, is something we don't take for granted. At this juncture, permit me on behalf of the entire membership to register our concern at the procrastination of the Electoral Commission in regard to the registration of the new entity. For the record, the EC ought to have issued our certificate of registration by now, given the express provisions of Section 7, subsection 3 and 4 of the Political Parties and Organizations Act, which require that verification of the particulars of registration and gazetting of the notice calling for objections should be conclusively done within a period of 1 month upon submission of registration documents. That is the law. Go and read the Political Parties and Organizations Act, subsection 3 and subsection 4. The process is actually sequenced in such a way, once you submit the documents, the EC is given that latitude, discretion, to verify these particulars. And the operative word is may verify the particulars, or may not. It's not mandatory that once you submit your documents there, that as a must, they must verify the signatures. No. That is not the case, but they are given that discretion. If there are conditions warranting verification, go ahead and do so. If you have any doubt, please go and verify. But in any case, subsection 4 is clear, is categorical. Subsection 4 of section 7, you issue the notice within 30 days of submission of the papers, inviting members of the public who may have any objections to the registration of that political entity to do so within 14 days, short of which the EC proceeds to issue a certificate. I regret to note that we have entered 2025 without a certificate in our hands, contrary to the law. By the end of the month 2020, by the end of the year 2024, we ought to have received our certificates. Unfortunately, the EC is still kicking cans down the road. Way forward. Mission today is to dismantle the predatory Kaguta family rule and reverse the power relations in the manner that will engender a political dispensation where the gun is subservient to civilian authority. You need to understand our mission. To dismantle the predatory Kaguta family rule, reverse the power relations in such a manner that will engender a political dispensation where the gun rule is subservient to the civilian authority. That is the core mission and agenda. Our country remains dichotomized between the oppressors and the oppressed, with the family rule in control of the country's wealth. The struggle to reverse this cannot be limited to any color, creed, political party, or religious affiliation. The efforts at dismantling a dictatorship cannot and have never been a partisan matter. Collaboration, cooperation, and synergy building across the forces of change is absolutely necessary and inevitable. The above calls for serious mobilization and organization of the population, establishment of leadership structures and programs of action that empower and focus the marginalized majority to the desired change. To achieve the desired change, from the military regime to democratic dispensation, using non-violent means, it's vital that change-seeking formations work together. Regrettably, Uganda's change-seeking formations are discordant, sometimes even antagonistic, and we are saying unified approaches have successfully worked elsewhere to bring critical mass of citizens to push back and assert their will through non-violent means. This would work here too. We are convinced about the potence of this weapon of mass, critical mass. We are of the effectiveness. All we need is just more traction, more effort to achieve the desired goal. We shall therefore invest our energies and resources in the unfolding year in the following. Number one, in galvanizing the critical mass in concert with other change-seeking forces, building on the initiatives and minimum joint programs already underway, as commanded by Article 3 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, mobilizing and organizing Ugandans to understand and appreciate the desired unity, build citizen activist structures, and coordinate covert and overt groups for non-violent activities against the dictatorship. This has been our journey. It has been the mainstay of our struggle, and we are not about to waver. No way to relenting. We are continuing with that struggle. Number two, we shall evaluate strategies on how to engage in the elections for the main purpose of advancing the protracted struggle to free the state from captivity of the struggle. Because I know many of you are asking, yes, are you participating in elections? Are you boycotting? That question shouldn't feature at all. We have told you, I'm just re-echoing our position, that we have always participated in elections with that strategy of advancing the struggle. And we're evaluating now the strategies on how to do it. That's now what we are exploring, because the dynamics keep shifting. So this time around, we are asking ourselves, yes, there are LC1 elections. The elections which are going to take place in 2020, their nomination, this, blah, blah, blah. And different actors are there in the field, and so on and so forth. So, for us who are championing the struggle of restoration of people's sovereign authority, how do we participate in these processes with that objective at the back of our mind, and with a committed team to achieving that particular goal, not for purposes of participating with the hope that they will usher in the transfer of power from Museveni to another democratically elected leader. That is not within the DNA of Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, and it would be delusional on our part and any other change-seeking forces to ever imagine that that is going to happen. But that's not to say we are totally opposed to using that strategy of weaponizing elections. So actually, we have no regrets saying we have to weaponize elections to achieve the mission enshrined in the Constitution, particularly Article 1 and Article 3. So we commit no crime in weaponizing any civic activity. Dismantling all tools and weapons of persecution, like the General Court Martial, using domestic and international mechanisms at our disposal in collaboration with all local and international stakeholders in fight for rule of law, social justice, and human dignity. This one we have to assure you. We are already in the fight to dismantle the General Court Martial. We have given a task to ourselves that this year, just like it happened in the West, when the Guantanamo Bay was brought down, was closed down against the will of the Americans. Just like this regime was forced to close down the notorious Nalufenya and Wembley. This year we want the General Court Martial dismantled. It's a mission. All of you should take it as an assignment that it is tool number one in persecuting us. They have hatched a well choreographed plot to finish us off using this General Court Martial. And we must not give them that space. And it's on this note that we want to assure Mr. Museveni that his evil mission of executing or guillotining Dr. Besigye using the General Court Martial will definitely boomerang. This message should be very clear to Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. He wants to use the General Court Martial to finish off Dr. Kizza Besigye, to kill him. You know, it's another form of extrajudicial killing. It's another form of extra-legal killing. Masked under the cloak of martial law. Then they finish you off. And that's what they want to do to Mr. Besigye. The team you see here, and the Ugandans, we are determined to thwart Mr. Museveni's agenda of killing Dr. Besigye using the General Court Martial. Yes. And we are going to fight that. The Electoral Commission, no. On that note, we do expect the Uganda Law Council to finalize the process of granting Senior Counsel Martha Karua her Pro Hac VC. This is another term for temporary practicing certificate. Oh, they have already issued it. I was behind the news. But she is already in the country. She has already arrived. Our team is already at the airport to receive her and the entire team. And this time round with a very big entourage of other lawyers, not only Martha, but many are going to be unveiled tomorrow before the General Court Martial. Many from different countries. Let me not preempt what's going to happen. So Martha, as our lead counsel, the commander-in-chief of all the legal forces in this struggle, will address the nation on this matter. The war is just beginning. The Electoral Commission is hereby asked to comply with the dictates of the law in registering our new party, the PFF, and in any case, not later than the 31st of January 2025. To pursue the transition agenda, including dissolution of the defunct FDC. Yes, the processes are on course, and we want to remind you, we rolled out a program of having the FDC dissolved by March, and ahead of dissolution, we hope the EC ought to have finalized all the processes. The EC is given 1 month now. By 31st, we expect the EC to finalize this process. And we want to call to order the RDCs and all these security operatives who are crisscrossing the entire country. Actually, they got access to our record, which we submitted to EC, got the names of the subscribers, the promoters, and now they are on rampage. They are marauding around in different areas of the country, intimidating the promoters of PFF, intimidating them. Many have sent us messages. They are on the run. Many are firm. They are saying they are determined to be imprisoned. And they are threatening many with arrests. They are being coerced to rescind the signatures, to recall them. But we are glad that they have stood firm and they insist they are the ones. Yes, the EC keeps calling them. We are getting feedbacks from the field. All of them, because all the particulars are there, not only NIN numbers, but also telephone contacts. They are being called by the EC officials, left, right, center. But we are glad that they are firm and continue to respond positively. They ask you, Salam Musumba, you the one who signed this? Yeah, it's me, it's my signature. Yes. As simple as that. Don't be intimidated. As we invite the EC to expedite this process, because it's absolutely uncalled for. We are here. The people seated in this tent here could be half of those who are required to register a political party. So you think we manufactured and concocted these names? Certainly not. So this intimidation by the RDCs, we condemn it, and it should be stopped forthwith. It's a year we are determined to engage an overdrive. It's a year we are determined to double our efforts. It's a year we are determined to engage gear number 1. And we're not going to be deterred by these shenanigans perpetrated by Mr. Museveni, including incarceration or a possible execution of our patriarch. We want to assure you, even in his absence when he is in prison, he's commanding the war. He's commanding it effectively, and we are in control, we are in charge. We are really focused on the journey. For God and my country, freedom for all. All for freedom. All for freedom. Freedom for all. For God and my country.